exactly what we said we would do. We would have rules on for not a moment longer than they were needed. And that's exactly what we've done. And despite some of the games and despite some of the kind of nonsense about this stuff, it is rational, it is about safety, it's about science, and it is about us doing exactly what we said we would do.
Tonight, breaking news: a weekend of relaxed restrictions ends in Victoria. QR codes in many places dumped and density limits for hospitality and entertainment venues scrapped by the state government. But some say more rules need to be eased and sooner. It's Sunday the 20th of February. You're watching 6 News also tonight.
Today's ceremony was an opportunity to reflect on the events of 80 years ago, but also to recommit to a stronger Australia going forward.
The Darwin bombing remembered 80 years on. Commemorations held to look back at the day that saw over 200 people killed and 400 wounded in what was the largest single attack ever mounted by a foreign power on Australia. And the clean-up continues overseas after Storm Enos batters the UK, tearing down trees, rooftops, causing chaos for planes and leaving multiple people dead after a rare red warning was issued. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Later this hour, not one, not two, but 3 big announcements about us. Plus, we'll look at viral claims that only 83 people have died solely from COVID in Australia since the pandemic began, a claim that misinterprets data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and has now spread on social media. But first tonight, a weekend of relaxed restrictions has wrapped up in Victoria, with QR codes dumped in places like retail, schools, childcare and at many workplaces, while density limits for hospitality and entertainment venues have also been scrapped by the Andrews government. The news has been welcomed by many, while some say that more rules need to be eased and sooner, but others believe that the rules need to stay in place. Across the country, WA is also set to end its hard border around a month later than first planned. Senior reporter Darby Travers has the latest developments.
Many Victorians have enjoyed a weekend of eased restrictions, with a number of key rules scaled back by the state government. Density limits, which returned in early January, have been scrapped for hospitality and entertainment venues. Dancing indoors can also resume, while the QR code check-in system will be dumped for retail, schools, childcare, early childhood education facilities and many workplaces. However, mask rules stay the same for now, which has led to some criticism from some who say the mandatory requirement needs to be removed, while others believe it should stay at least for now.
This is exactly what we said we would do. We would have rules on for not a moment longer than they were needed. And that's exactly what we've done. And despite some of the games and despite some of the kind of nonsense about this stuff, it is rational, it is about safety, it's about science, and it is about us doing exactly what we said we would do. Keep people safe, do everything we could to manage the very significant pressure in our health system, but also normalise this, push through a very difficult barrier to make this, in every way, as normal a year as possible. There's no real alternative.
Now, this all comes as WA authorities announce an end to its hard border. Premier Mark McGowan has announced that quarantine-free travel will be allowed for vaccinated travellers from 12:01 a.m. on March 3, with COVID case numbers expected to peak at around 10,000 a day by the end of March. The state was originally going to open up earlier this month, but delayed it because of the spread of the Omicron variant in all other states and territories. But McGowan has now admitted that the virus is already here and we cannot stop its spread. And just returning to Victoria briefly, it has been revealed that those aged 18 and over can receive the Novavax COVID vaccine through some state-run centres, GPs and pharmacies from tomorrow. However, it has not been made available for kids or as a third dose. Anyone wanting the Novavax vaccine can call the coronavirus hotline or book online.
And over in New South Wales, there will be changes to COVID rules from this Friday. Masks will no longer be needed in most indoor settings. However, they will be mandatory on public transport, in hospitals and in aged care facilities, and are also recommended when people are not able to socially distance. Singing and dancing will be allowed at all music festivals, where the 20,000 person cap on attendance will no longer be in effect. Rather, it does follow that removal of density rules in the state. QR codes also dumped except with nightclubs and music festivals, and the direction for people to work from home instead of in person has been changed to employers' discretion. And of course, for more coverage of the COVID pandemic, you can head to our website. We've got a dedicated page set up. That website is, of course, 6newsau.com. Well, a viral claim has spread online stating that only 83 people have died solely from COVID in Australia since the pandemic began. And that originated from a segment on Paul Murray's Sky News show, where he looked at recently released data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Here's some of what he had to say.
How many people have actually died, not with, but exclusively from COVID in Australia in the past couple of years? It is 83. Now, every one of those is absolutely a tragedy, as is the 2 and a bit thousand before that. And the many hundreds that will still be to come, absolutely terrible, obviously, for the people and their families. Not belittling any of that, but I'm putting it in perspective. How are we still living in a world when 83 people are the ones that were otherwise healthy but got killed by COVID? The rest had something seriously wrong with them before, and it was the final straw that broke the camel's back. That's the truth. That's the reality.
Now, the only problem with that, some of that data has been misinterpreted. Now, the ABS's own website says that there were 2,639 deaths where people died with or from COVID that occurred by January 31st of this year that have been registered and received by the ABS. Now, they state that the majority of deaths had an underlying cause of death of COVID. Now, that is specifically 2,556, and there were 83 people who died with COVID-19. But when you scroll down the page, it does give you extra info saying that other deaths that had COVID as a term on the death certificate included 83, which were COVID-related. This is where the person died with COVID, confirmed or suspected, but it was not the underlying cause of death. Now, the AAP also says that the number of deaths where COVID alone was reported on the death certificate is 220, and an ABS spokesperson told them that when COVID-19 was listed as a cause on the certificate, 83 of these were not due to the virus itself, but another condition, adding that an example of another condition could be, for instance, late-stage cancer. But that didn't stop the claim spreading on Sky, and not just on Sky. Over at the Herald Sun, a tweet that has now been deleted also used that 83 figure. Now, Rita Panahi, who wrote the article, told us that it's possible a blurb was added by someone in the digital or socials team and showed an image of her article, which you're looking at now, that did not include a misinterpretation of that 83 figure. So just to state again, that figure of 83 from the ABS is referencing COVID-related deaths where the person's death was not due to the virus, but another condition. And of course, if you see something you want fact-checked, please don't forget to tag or DM at 6newsau on social media, or send us an email where you're actually more likely to get a response. Contact at 6newsau.com. Well, this weekend marks the 80th year since the Darwin bombing of 1942, when over 240 Japanese aircraft attacked in 2 separate raids in what was the largest single attack ever mounted by a foreign power on Australia. The Japanese air raids were the first and largest of more than 100 that would later be carried out in 1942 and 1943 against Australia.
Today's ceremony was an opportunity to reflect on the events of 80 years ago, but also to recommit to a stronger Australia going forward. And I was very pleased to be able to be here with my Labor team.
Over 200 people were killed and 400 wounded on that day. Overseas now, police in Canada are continuing to respond to protests in the capital of Ottawa. Dozens have been arrested, including multiple organisers, with vehicles also towed away. Video posted online appears to show officers making their way through a crowd and trampling two people with their horses. The protest began to protest vaccine mandates for truckers, but has now merged into more general anti-government protests and anti-mandate protests. In the US, the National Archives says that it found classified material among the boxes of White House documents that Donald Trump took to Mar-a-Lago. In a statement, they said that they had identified items marked as classified national security information within the boxes, and NBC reports that NARA staff have been in communication with the Department of Justice. The Washington Post reports that the boxes included documents marked at the top secret level. Well, the clean-up continues after Storm Enos battered the UK, tearing down trees, rooftops, causing chaos for planes and leaving multiple people dead. It is the first time UK authorities have issued a red warning for London, meaning the storm posed a danger to life. Now, we do know of one instance where a man was killed after debris struck his windscreen in England, while another man also died when a car hit a tree.
Oh shit! It fell off.
More than 400 flights were cancelled right across the UK as a result of the strong weather. Now it's Ivan and Melly with a look at what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, border reopening and variant X. How to prepare for an unknown strain scenario as Western Australia braces for a rise in cases. An exclusive discussion with nursing union boss Mark Olsen.
An exclusive insight from a travel agent on how some international students are skipping WA's hotel quarantine system by detouring via the East Coast.
Hospitals gold coal yellow as WA prepares for unavoidable Omicron surge.
Violent crime defeated by people power as police shift resources following community outcry. And Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
All right, thanks both Ivan and Melly there. Now to tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country. Partly cloudy, 30 degrees in Brisbane, 26 on a chance of thunderstorms in Sydney, heavy clouds in the nation's capital, Canberra, 19 in Melbourne, 17 degrees in Hobart, getting up to a top of 22 in Adelaide, 33 in Alice Springs, sunny, 33 in Perth as well, and in Darwin a warm but wet top of 32. And just before we go tonight, as we teased earlier, we do have three pretty big announcements. Number one, if you've missed it, mornings will be taking a bit of a rest as we focus on our federal election coverage, which we're about to announce more of in couple of seconds, but instead we'll be airing more editions of Fact Check and Uncensored, all available on our YouTube channel. And of course, we will still have regular headlines on social media 24/7 and at our website 6newsau.com. Now, on the subject of election coverage, we will be speaking to Dr. Monique Ryan, an independent candidate for the seat of Kooyong, aiming to take that seat from Treasurer Josh Frydenberg on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for Uncensored. Now, we'll touch on a fair few topics, including why she's running, quite simply, and also whether she should have announced that she was a former Labor member earlier. So we'll discuss that because there's plenty of allegations of quote-unquote fake independence. So you'll see that Tuesday night. And also, you saw WAMN a few minutes ago, but we are proud to announce a joint podcast with them for our exclusive subscribers. Now, that means if you're a Patreon subscriber to us, or if you subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club, you will be able to listen to this, and it's called East plus West. And we will be discussing plenty of topics. Again, it's putting together the joint resources of two amazing if I do say so myself, independent news outlets. So again, that is for Patreon subscriptions at patreon.com/6newsau. You haven't subscribed, by the way, $4 a month, exclusive benefits, just like we mentioned there. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with the latest headlines by heading to our website, 6newsau.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6 News AU, find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.